Now that we've coded the insert method in our provider class, we can call it from the add task activity using a content resolver. We'll want to link a call to the insert method to this add button so that it's called whenever a user inputs a task and clicks add. And in the starter code, in the activity add task XML layout file, there's already a method that's called when this button is clicked. If you scroll down to the very bottom of this XML file, you'll see the XML for the add button. At the end is the OnClick attribute, which assigns a method to this button called OnClick Add Task. And this corresponds to a method of the same name in the add task activity code. So let's go to add task activity. In here we can see this method OnClick Add Task. Right now we can see that this method is empty with some to-dos, so nothing happens when the add button is clicked. We'll have to fill this in to get a user's input and insert it into our tasks database. Let's start by getting the task description that a user inputs. To retrieve a user's input description, we have to retrieve the text they entered into the Edit Text view in the Add Task layout. First, we'll identify that Edit Text view with a call to find view by ID, and its ID passed in. Then we can call getText and toString. This retrieves the input task description, and then I can store it as a string variable, which I've named input. Let's also only create new data when there is input text. We don't want any empty tasks being created if someone presses the add button without typing in a task to do. So we'll just add an if statement that checks if the input string has a length equal to 0. If it does, we'll break out of this method. And if it doesn't, we'll continue on. After this, we'll create a new content values object to place this task data into. Then let's put the string input into our content values with a call to the put function. You've seen this function before, and to review, the put call first takes in a key string that identifies the kind of data being input, which will just be the name of the column it belongs to, in our case, the description column. Then the second argument is the actual value that will be stored in the tasks database, which is the input string we retrieved. Great, now we have the description of the task. And next, let's put the priority into the content values too. This time, the key will be for the priority column. And the data we want to save is the value 1 through 3 that a user selected, and that's already stored in this int variable named mPriority. The variable mPriority is actually changed in this other complete method called onPrioritySelected. This method is called whenever the priority buttons are clicked. We just need to focus on OnClick Add Task. And these two lines of code complete our content values object. It now holds a task description and a priority. Then we need to insert these values into our database with a call to a content resolver. Here's the content resolver, and we call insert on it. We then pass in the correct content URI for accessing the tasks directory, which is the content URI constant we defined in the contract. And the last argument here are the content values we just created. This insert method should return a URI if it works. So let's actually create a toast so that we can see what URI this insert returns. That way we can see if it successfully inserted new data. First we'll check if the URI exists, and if it does, we'll display it as a toast. Then, at the very end of this method, call finish. Finish tells us that this activity is over, and so we should return to the main activity after an insert is complete. And that finishes hooking up our insert to the UI. Now, our insert should be linked to the add button, and it's time to test this out on an emulator or phone. So here's what our app looks like right now. Let's go to our add task activity. I'll select a low priority and click Add, and you should see this toast pop up with an ID of 1. Next, it'll be your turn to code, and then we'll move on to actually displaying this data.